You never forget the first time someone calls the cops on you for moving boxes, not partying, not blasting music, not waving a flamethrower around like a maniac. Nope, just quietly unloading lamps, blankets, and a coffee maker into the lake cabin I legally bought. What I didn't realize that morning, standing on the porch with a box of books in my arms, was that I was about to meet the local legend they call Lake Karen. She wasn't on the welcome committee. She was the self-appointed HOA enforcer, patrol captain, and general neighborhood tyrant. And when I say she tried to ruin my life over property lines and paint colors, I mean she called in air support. But what Karen didn't know, what none of them knew, was that this lake cabin, it wasn't just a getaway, it was my late grandfather's legacy. And I didn't just come to unpack, I came prepared. By the end of this story, the cops won't be the only ones walking away, because I found a legal loophole that banned Karen's entire HOA from the lake. This is the story of how I flipped the script on a power-hungry HOA Karen. So here's where it all started. 3 months ago, I packed up my life in the city and moved to my grandfather's old lake cabin. He passed 2 years ago and left it to me in his will. I didn't even know I owned lakefront property until the paperwork came through. The place needed some love, peeling paint, mossy deck, and a hot water heater that sounded like it was trying to communicate with whales. But it had soul. My grandfather used to say, "A lake shows its secrets only to those who wait." I'd planned to work remote, fix up the place, and maybe, finally, learn to kayak without flipping it like a pancake. Enter Karen. I met her on day one. She arrived unannounced, holding a clipboard and a chihuahua that trembled like it had seen war. "You can't park your truck there. It's not HOA compliant," she snapped. "Hi, I just got here. I don't think I'm part of any HOA," I replied, still half smiling. She squinted at me like I'd insulted her ancestors. "Every property on this road is governed by Lakeshore Estates HOA. I later found out that wasn't true. My cabin had been grandfathered in, no pun intended, before the HOA was formed, legally excluded. But Karen, she wasn't the type to let facts get in the way of enforcement. That first interaction ended with her snapping a photo of my license plate and warning me about infractions. I laughed it off. Silly misunderstanding. I figured she'd move on once she saw I wasn't a threat. Oh, if only. HOA letters began showing up in my mailbox, unsigned. Violation, deck paint color. Karen standing across the road, arms crossed, watching me install a new mailbox. A notice of fine duct taped to my garbage can. At first, I thought it was annoying. Then it turned weird, like Stepford Wives, but with pine needles and passive aggression. One morning, I caught her measuring my dock with a tape measure. "Just making sure you're within regulations," she said with a smile. "I'm not in your HOA," I said flatly. She smiled wider. "We'll see about that." That was just the beginning. Things started to spiral. A week after the dock incident, I received a $500 fine for unauthorized shoreline usage. I laughed and threw it out. Then she upped the ante. I came home from a grocery run to find orange spray paint on my driveway. No trespassing, Ikeo zone. She claimed she was protecting the lake's environmental purity. From what? My folding chairs? Then, too, she went nuclear. She called the sheriff, claimed I was dumping chemicals into the lake. Spoiler, I was cleaning a cooler with vinegar. The deputy looked so tired. She put up a wooden sign at the beach entrance. HOA members only. All others will be prosecuted. I took it down. She put up 2 more, in bold, red, paint. She showed up with a drone, flying it over my property. At 7 a.m., I waved. She crashed it into a pine tree. I wasn't just annoyed anymore. I was angry. I had a legal right to be here, to enjoy the lake my grandfather fished in every summer since 1958. Karen was abusing her HOA power and trying to scare me into compliance. But I wasn't scared. I was strategic. I started documenting everything. Dates, times photos, drone footage. even the HOA's own bylaws. And that's when I found it. A single paragraph, but in dusty legalese that would change everything. Buried in the HOA's charter was a clause, something about exclusive access rights to the lake. It stated that only properties listed in Appendix A had access via the HOA's maintained beach and dock. I wasn't listed. But here's the twist. The lake wasn't private. It was state regulated, which meant the HOA had no right to restrict access to anyone outside its member properties. And here's where it gets beautiful. My grandfather's cabin included a right-of-way easement granted decades before the HOA existed. And guess what that included? Lake, usage, rights. I called a real estate attorney, showed him the documents. He practically giggled. Yeah, not only are you not under HOA jurisdiction, you have more historical rights than they do. We filed a formal cease and desist. Then, I got creative. I put up my own sign, public access compliant, Karen-free zone. Installed solar-powered cameras right on the edge of my dock, printed out the legal map showing my exemption, and mailed it to every neighbor. One of them, a sweet retired couple named Dave and Linda, called me laughing. We always thought Karen was full of it, glad someone finally stood up to her. And then came the twist. Turns out, 5 other homes were also wrongfully fined over the years. Some had paid, others just rolled over. But now, they wanted in. The final showdown came on a Saturday morning. The HOA had called an emergency board meeting right at the public lake access. I showed up with folders, neighbors, and a portable speaker. "You can't be here. This is private," she snapped. "Actually, Karen, it's public, and I have the legal documents right here if you'd like to read them. Or I can email them to your lawyer." She tried to cut me off, but I wasn't finished. "Also, these neighbors, they've decided to formally challenge your HOA jurisdiction, starting today." One by one, neighbors pulled out their own letters. Some had already filed formal complaints. Dave handed her a stack of signatures, a petition to amend the HOA's access clause, stripping it of authority over non-HOA lots. It passed, and then, the cherry on top. "We've also reviewed the signs and barricades placed around the beach," said the state environmental officer. "Those are a violation of public lake access law. They must be removed immediately." Karen stood there, speechless, eyes darting. Her power? Gone. Her clipboard? Pointless. Karen doesn't wave anymore, but she also doesn't trespass. The signs are gone. The fines were reversed, and a new neighborhood committee, without her, now works on improving access for everyone. I repainted my deck in a bright, unapologetic ocean blue. And my grandfather's cabin? It finally feels like home. Power isn't about clipboards or rules scribbled in margins. It's about knowing your rights and having the guts to use them. So the next time someone tries to bully you with fake authority, remember, even the loudest voice loses to the quiet truth of the law. And Karen, let's just say, she's no longer the queen of the lake. She's more like a very angry goose on the sidelines. What would you have done if Karen came for your dock? Comment "Justice served" if you made it this far. And don't forget to subscribe for more real stories where karma has a paddle.